Welcome to San Marcos Makes YouTube channel where we make things. Today we are making a pizza rocker. Hey, so I recently got a book from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Make Something, with David Picciuto. He's got many books, but this last one that he just put out really intrigued me. It is my two themes, woodworking and cooking. This is kitchen tools. The first one that I want to do is the pizza rocker. It is actually the very first step-by-step build in the book. This is a intro level, but it challenged me because it's both metal and wood, but it's a kitchen tool. I wanted really to make some kitchen tools. That's like my dream part of woodworking, is combining my two favorite passions. But if you don't know David Picciuto has a YouTube channel with millions of followers on Make Something. I do not want to give him any discredit, or I want you to go buy his book. So I'm going to do as close as I can to step by step, but I don't want to give exact measurements. I want you to go out and buy the book. I will definitely put a link down in the description to get this book. I highly recommend this book. But we're going to focus all about the pizza rocker. Let's get started. All right, so concept is pretty easy. Let's think about a couple of things that you're going to need. First, material wise, you're going to need some kind of hardwood. I'm choosing walnut. You'll also need a piece of sheet metal. So I got this and this is steel. I bought it at Lowe's. I think it was $6. This is 16 gauge. I do believe in the book it said 20 gauge. I could not find 20, so I want to go bigger. If you don't know, the smaller than the number on the 16 gauge, 16 over 20, 16 is a thicker metal that talks about thickness. So the smaller the number, the thicker the metal is. So 22 is going to be much thinner. So my choices were 16 or 22. I wanted to be a little bit thicker. But you'll need about the size that you want your blade. I've also went ahead and marked it, and we'll talk a little bit about in a little bit. But if you just kind of think about the rocker, however big you want to do it, you want to make the blade a little bit smaller than you would. Sheet metal. So easiest way is to get a jigsaw. And then the important thing would be to get a metal blade for that. The small teeth. Almost every time you're going to do it, you're going to want a new blade. These blades do not last long. You want a good sharp blade. The key with it is going to be very slow. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. The dimensions, you want 5 or 6 inches for your height, and anywhere from, I don't know, let's say 12 to 20 inches in length. Halfway down the middle, you're going to want to put a little line and go up about 1 inch above, and we are going to make a curve here. I'm going to freehand draw this curve, and then we're going to cut out the line. I went ahead and put a diagonal line to kind of just give it a reference, but I want to end up here and here, so I'm going to freehand a circle. All right, so you can see basic profile. I know it's not perfect, but we can definitely work in with the, I'm going to use a belt sander if you didn't have a belt sander or something very fast moving type of grinder, you're going to want to be a little more precise. I have the luxury of having a belt sander, so this, putting some 80 grit sandpaper, I can get it to pretty much where I want it to be and smooth out those edges. But I am perfectly fine and happy with this. But I will definitely be going to the belt grinder or belt sander next. All right, so now it's time to shape this blade. Only thing I've done off camera was I created a simple line about 1 inch down to build that profile. So all we're gonna do here is take the 80 grit sandpaper or 60 grit, whatever you got, and start shaping the blade to make that profile that you want. You want a little bit of flat here, but then beveled onto the side. Once we get the shape that we want, then we want to kind of make the blade, and that's what the 1 inch is for. We want to get away some of this material and thin it just like you would a knife blade. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you want to do it the same on both sides. And then you can go up to a different grit sandpaper, bigger, higher grit sandpaper. We'll start polishing it. When I'm get closer done before I touch the wood, I'm gonna pull out 220 and really make this shine, but just not with a belt sander. Leave the edges alone for now, and make sure you do both sides. Don't forget ear protection. Don't forget gloves, glasses. I'm also on my, so this is my janky jig from Build Dad Build, as he likes to call them. But anytime I'm grinding metal, I want to do it outside. I don't like it in my garage just due to all the sawdust around. But this does have a dust bag or a dust collection system. I do remove it. I don't want those shavings in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start shaping this blade. All right, now that we've got this kind of sand down, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a decorative element on the handle. So this being the top, we want to put kind of a decorative cut. So it's going to look like this when it's finished, where this being the bottom, what's custom, this is the top of the handle. But if you flip this around and put it about where you want to see it, you do want room for some of the wood, but you want to put a profile on it for decorative. So I'm going to go about there. We still want some wood here because I'm going to cut all this out. So I'm just going to simply trace that out. And then I'm going to cut it out on my bandsaw. If you did not have a bandsaw, you could definitely do a jigsaw, or you don't even have to do this part. But I think it gives it a good look. And it's actually what David does in the book. All right, so now that we've cut that, here is what it will look like, roughly. I'm going to sand these down later, but that's what it's going to look like. All right, so our next steps is we are going to cut this in half with the bandsaw. Could use a table saw. You could probably use even a jigsaw. But we want to cut this in half, and then we're going to route the edges and glue it up. All right, so real quickly, we're gonna glue this up. I'm just using 5-minute epoxy. I only use this type a couple times. That's all I could find. But almost any of your epoxies will have 2 parts. You're just gonna squeeze them together. And of course, because it's 5 minutes, epoxy do need to work decently quick, but you're gonna combine the two. I go to my scrap bin and I find scraps, so let's see if I can get that a little better. And I'm just gonna simply mix these together. This one kind of gets a little cloudy as it mixes, so just mix it just for a couple seconds. And actually found a really thin piece of walnut, and I'm just going to spread it along. And you don't have to have a crazy thick amounts. All right, I'm happy with it, I think. All right, so let's get these clamps off. All right, now we just need to take it to the belt sander and get it cleaned up. All right, so as we take it to the belt sander, we're trying to get this flush, these flush, and if you want to clean up any of this. So I'm going to start with low grit and then work my way up. So let's get started with that. All right, so as you can see, we got it nicely sanded. I have now it's time to put the dowels in, brass dowels. So I have marked down 3/4 of an inch all the way, and my bits are going to go here, and then this is directly in the middle. I did go down just a little bit more. I'm actually up just a little bit more, only because 3/4 inch was a little too close for me. Where you gotta just kind of hope and pray, drill slow, put some other wood so it doesn't blow out, and go slow. Obviously gonna need a wood slash kind of a combination bit to get through the metal. First one down. All right, so all 3 holes. Little tip: go slow through the wood, hit the metal. You may have to pick it up just a little bit. Feel once you go through, go back slow. You don't want to blow it out. All right, so let's see what it looks like. And let's hope it didn't blow out. No, it looks great. Looks great. All right, so we're going to get the brass dowels in there and 5-minute epoxy them, and we'll sand them down. All right, so get the brass dowel. You're basically just, I used a jigsaw, but you could use anything, metal cutting. Still using a metal cutting blade. You're wanting roughly about 1 inch. I'm just eyeing it because we can sand it off if it's not right. So just right about 1 inch. All right, so got some very quick 5-minute epoxy. Mix that up real quick, and then we basically just want to roll the dowel in it and then insert it in. And I would get it pretty flush on one end because you'll have to trim off the other end. So the smoothest end I would definitely insert, just make it a little easier. This is probably where you should glove up. And I'll kind of build references. get that in at least started. We can hammer it down here in just a second. Roll this around. Man, I don't know where that other one went. All right, so we're just going to take the rubber mallet, make sure that it gets down as far as we can. If you have not seen the video of the mallet, make sure you check it out on my page. Get it all the way in. And you're going to want to check the other end and make sure you went all the way through. Definitely, and we'll sand those smooth. Maybe just a little bit more on this side. Tap them. Let these dry at least, I would say, an hour. Sand them smooth, and we will be getting close to being done. So when we come back, they will all be sanded down, both sides. You know, and like this one is pretty long, and I may cut that on the saw, but I may just sand it down. Same thing. A lot of these brass is a little bit softer. You can sand it down. Okay, so we are down to the finishing step. So I did go ahead and sand everything down. I'll tell you to file these down. I use this, I think this is actually for horseshoes, but I've had it for a long time. But something really abrasive. I was just like a rasp, if you want to think of it, a file or whatever, to get them close. And then once I got them close, a little bit of sandpaper. And then last step I did after I got it where I want it, I wetted the wood just like I would a cutting board, sand it back down to get that super smooth. But now we want to preserve it, because, you know, occasionally we got to get it wet. Plus we want that beautiful walnut to pop. So got a couple choices. It definitely does need to be food grade. So I'm going to start with at least one layer of the Butcher Buck conditioner. This has mineral oil and wax into one. I'm going to put it over everything, including the metal. You got to do the metal or it'll rust. Let that set for about 30 minutes, and then wipe it in, put it on very thick, wipe it in. After that, kind of do the wipe off, and then I'm going to put a couple layers of mineral oil about every 30 minutes, wipe it in, come back until a finished product. So I'll show you what the first one looks like. So I'm going to put this on pretty liberal, even a little bit on the blade, and I'm just going to hand rub it in everywhere I can get it, both sides, of course, edges, everywhere I can get it. Oh, starting to look nice. Put a little bit more here. Probably could have just got away with the mineral oil on the blade, but I have this wax, might as well use it. And then we're going to let that set for about 30 minutes. All right, so we are finished. Came out really good. Got many coats of oil on it. Should last for a long time. So I have built this for my dad, and we'll make sure he gets it. But his condition to get it is he has got to comment on my video. So if you know who my dad is, make sure he comments on this video. Once he does, it'll be on his way. Just wanted to have some fun with that. But really pleased with the way this came out, and hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, pick up David's book, Picciuto's.